Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome back, friends. You ever notice how betrayal doesn't come with a storm? It doesn't kick the door down, shouting its name. It slides in quiet, like smoke curling under a locked door. By the time you smell it, the room is already burning, and you're choking on the ash. The night it found me, Aunt Lorraine's dining room smelled of overcooked beef and her cheap perfume. Powdery and sharp, a scent that stings the back of your throat and clings to your clothes like a warning. The yellow light from the ceiling fan cast a dim, swaying glow over the oak table, polished to a high gleam. On the walls, picture after picture, cousins in graduation gowns, weddings in silver frames, kids with missing teeth, all proof that this family produced something worth celebrating. And there I was, 17, perched at the far end, shoulders drawn in, trying to shrink small enough to vanish into the wallpaper. Lorraine tapped her wine glass with a manicured nail. The ringing cut the chatter dead. She leaned back, her lips stretched into a smile that didn't reach her eyes, lipstick bleeding into the fine cracks around her mouth. Money's gone from my purse. The words floated across the table, light and casual, like a knife dropped onto a linen cloth. She didn't look at Ruby, not at Dylan, just me. I still remember the sound of silverware freezing midair, the slow hush as every conversation died. Every eye shifted to me like a spotlight, as if I'd been waiting my whole life for a performance I never auditioned for. I didn't take anything, I said, my voice steady, too steady. I thought truth carried its own weight, that honesty was a shield. Then my mother's hand closed around my arm, her nails digging through my sleeve. Her breath was hot with wine as she leaned close and hissed, "Tell me the truth." That was the moment something inside me split, not just because she doubted me, but because I saw the relief on her face. My shame would make her life simpler. And Dylan, God, Dylan, 2 seats down, his plate still full, his fork frozen in the air. His eyes were wide, but his lips were pressed shut. Later, upstairs, I found the torn bank envelope wedged behind his baseball trophies. Under the weak glow of his desk lamp, his face was pale, his hands shaking. "Don't," he whispered, just that one word. "Don't tell, don't ruin it, don't make waves." And I didn't, because I thought that's what brothers did. You carry the weight so they don't have to. You become the villain so they can stay the golden child. I left before dawn, my backpack half-zipped, $86 stuffed inside. No plan, no map, just the sour taste of betrayal on my tongue. The bus station smelled of wet coats, burnt coffee, and a loneliness that seeps into your bones. I slid crumpled bills across the counter and bought a one-way ticket to anywhere. When I stepped off the bus in Maple Ridge at 4 a.m., the air was damp and thick with exhaust. My breath plumed white in the dark. The storefronts were shuttered, neon signs long dead. The streets were empty except for one corner shop, glowing faintly. Doc Carter's Bread and Coffee. The bell on the door chimed softly. Warmth hit me like a wall, thick with the smell of yeast, cinnamon, and sugar. The relief was so sharp it hurt. Behind the counter, a man with tired eyes and flower-streaked arms looked up. "You lost or hungry?" he asked. I swallowed hard. "Yeah." His wife slid a roll across the counter. Steam curled from its split crust, butter melting at the edges. "Eat," she said. "Then mop, we open in 2 hours." That was my interview. That was the beginning. They didn't ask about my soaked shoes or the crack in my voice. They didn't care what ghosts I carried in my backpack. They just handed me a rag and later a key. The room upstairs was small. A twin bed, a window that stuck when it froze, a heater that rattled like it was fighting for its life. Rent came straight from my paycheck. No questions, no pity. For the first time, silence didn't mean exile. It meant safety. Mabel taught me to refill jam jars without leaving a sticky trail. Ray showed me how to knead dough without fighting it. "You're not wrestling it," he'd say, guiding my clumsy hands. "Treat it rough and it dies." Days blurred into a rhythm. Scrub, sweep, slice, breathe. My arms ached, my back burned, but the ache meant I belonged. Every week I wrote letters home. Short, careful, "I'm fine, don't worry, don't write back." Sometimes I slipped a few bills inside for Dylan. No name, no return address, just a ghost brother haunting the mailbox. For a while, it was enough. But betrayal doesn't just stab once and leave. It circles back. The letter came one morning, slid under the bakery door. A white envelope, thin paper, rent increase, 18%. And at the bottom, the name hit me like a fist. Mercer Properties. Lorraine's world again. The same family that exiled me was now trying to gut the only home I'd ever known. I stood in the kitchen, hands dusted with flour, staring until the words blurred. Mabel laid a hand on my shoulder. "We'll figure it out," she said softly, but I heard the tremor in her voice. I couldn't let it happen again. Not here, not to them. So I fought, quiet at first, circling due dates in red on the wall calendar, carrying the letter in my pocket like a weapon. But word spread. Customers whispered. A reporter came. The headline read, "Beloved bakery bled dry by big landlord." Strangers filled the tip jar, paid months in advance for bread, showed up at dawn just to say, "We've got you." And me, I stayed quiet, but inside something flared. I wasn't running this time. One night, Ray and Mabel sat me down at the scarred table in the back. Steam curled from their mugs of tea. Their faces looked older than I'd ever seen them. "We're ready to step back," Ray said. "We want you to take the shop." 17, no credit, no safety net, just calloused hands and a fire in my chest. They weren't giving me a business. They were handing me a life. I learned zoning codes by flashlight. I sat in the library until midnight, tracing legal lines with a trembling finger. I stood in front of the board in a borrowed shirt 2 sizes too big, my voice shaking but clear. Why raise the rent without repairs? Without reason. Silence stretched, then nods. The clerk typed the decision into the record. Weeks later, Mabel pressed the keys into my hand. They were cold and heavy, biting into my palm. And for the first time since that night at Lorraine's table, I felt the truth didn't need defending. It just needed living. The bakery became more than ovens and walls. It became mornings of soft laughter and evenings of stories over cooling racks. It became home. Some nights I'd lock up late, the street outside empty, the smell of bread still thick in the air. I'd lean against the counter, listening to the hum of the freezers, and think of Dylan, his face pale in the lamplight. His one word, "Don't." I carried that silence for years, but here, silence meant something else. It meant peace, belonging, rhythm. Lorraine thought her lie would end me. She thought exile would hollow me out. But here I am, hands dusted with flour, my name on the lease, my heart still beating. And sometimes, life circles back in ways you don't expect. It was a Tuesday. The lunch rush had just ended. I was wiping down tables when the bell on the door rang. I looked up, and there he was. Dylan, older, his face leaner, jaw sharper, but the same eyes, the ones that had pleaded with me in the lamplight. He didn't speak at first, just stood there, shifting on his feet, his gaze sweeping over the bakery as if he wasn't sure he was allowed inside. Finally, he whispered, "I heard this place was yours." I nodded, waited. He swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry for everything." The words I'd craved for years were finally there, hanging in the air like smoke, and I realized I didn't need them anymore. I slid a roll across the counter, just like Mabel had for me all those years ago. "Eat," I said, "then mop." His laugh cracked into a sob, and in that moment, I knew I'd broken the cycle. Family isn't blood. Sometimes family is the people who hand you a roll at 4 a.m. and say, "Eat, then mop." That's the truth, the kind no one can take from you.
Thanks for watching PastQuest. If you enjoyed the journey into history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories from the past. See you in the next quest.